Is this thing on? Hey guys. Just woke up. I'm gonna do a quick run on a 5-link budget setup. Forgive me if I'm sloppy. Still a bit tired. We're gonna go for a silver key too, though. Making this video because usually before I see a guide, I want to see what the build looks like in action. And it's my intention at the end of the run to kind of explain how things work on this build. So I want to be able to show anybody who's interested what the build looks like, what you can expect. This is on a budget. 5-link. No Vinktars. I got the timer up for you. The only difference that I'm doing here is that I do not have a stib knife. I'm using a basalt flask. So at the end of the run, I'll kind of explain what's going on with this build. But for now, feel free to enjoy the content and see if you like it. You don't need to use the basalt flask. It's a little bit safer though. I'll show you what it looks like with 3 movement speed flasks though. In the next zone I should have charges. A lot faster. Almost a bad idea to use it in an enclosed area because it's fast. You move faster than you can click the door open. So as you can see, there's a lot of elemental damage today. It's pretty scary. If we get shocked, we can die. Lots of damage today, but it's okay. Because we're on a 5-link. We're on a budget. We're keeping our flasks up. We're leeching. We got Warlord's Mark on the boss. This is a full key run. And I'm grabbing the Intricate Locker. That's available today as well. Messed up my combo a little bit right there, but it's okay. Still running quick. If you hit the smoke mine combo just right, this build moves at over 400% speed. I'll try it again. Smoke mine, detonate, phase run, flask up. Intricate Lockers in here today, so I'll snag that too. Right here, perfect. Ooh. I don't need any of those, so I'll leave those for now. It's my intention to do this build guide in one take. Maybe I should have had a coffee, but it's alright. You guys will get the hang of it. I'll do my best to explain it. So as you can see, he's got 3 conduits active. He's got all of his essences active. This is a scary fight today. We're on a 5 lane. Keep up Fortify. Dodge as much as you can. Wait until he's 10% health. Hit him with the Calling Flame Strike. This build's got about 80% chance to evade. So there's 4 keys. We also had a chance at an Intricate Locker, which you can get the rare boots from. I'll hide the loot for just a second and get into what makes this build good. So that's a 7-minute run with 4 keys on a 5 link and an Intricate Locker, and it's my first run of the day, and I just woke up. If I can do it right now, you guys can do it right now, and here's the idea. Here's the idea. My profile is going to be in the description. I'm usually wearing all the same gear. There's variations to this build. You do not need to build it exactly like this, but here's what I do. I take a Vinktars. That's like a Chaos Orb. I'll price check it for you right now in the video. You can get a well-rolled Vinktars for a couple Chaos. You can see it right there. Devotos. This enchant, I got it myself. All you need is this helmet. You don't need an enchant. All we're here for on the Devotos is the movement speed and the evasion. That's it. That's all. So if you're looking for a well-rolled Devotos, just try to get high evasion if you can. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter. I'll go over the uniques first. Essence Worm, completely mandatory. You need this. I don't think it's expensive. 4 or 5 Chaos. We're going to put our only aura in this. It's called Grace. Gives us 2700 evasion at level 19. I haven't leveled mine up to 20. I don't think I ever will. I don't care that much. It's not necessary. Queen of the Forest chest piece. It's the centerpiece of the build. When you're looking for this, all you need is a 5 link. It's going to be expensive. The most expensive part of the build. I think it's around 30, 35 chaos right now. You do not need a 6 link, okay? This is prices for a 6 link if you're a baller. You don't need it, and I'll explain why once I'm done looking over the uniques. Face breakers for the gloves. These are cheap too. Check this out. Look at that. You can get face breakers for a couple chaos on a good roll. Mine's 746%. I found these myself. at the start of the league. At series step, I am getting spammed, aren't I? I'm sorry. At series step, mandatory, best in slot. It's worth paying extra for the leech enchant if you can find it. However, these boots are pretty cheap, and if you're on a budget, it's not a big deal. I enchanted these with leech myself, so that means I had to do a whole bunch of runs without the enchant. So if I can do it, you can do it. That's what I'm trying to get at. So that covers all but one unique. We use one unique jewel called Clear Mind. It's a cobalt jewel. This is how we get most of our damage, to be completely honest. This is what makes our build complete right here. While no mana is reserved, 59 increased spell damage. Blade Vortex is a spell, so that's a lot. It allows us to take a lot less investment on the tree for damage. I only take one actual damage wheel. I take a crit node here, and there's really not much else for damage. Some crit up here. So that's really it. We scale our damage with jewels, and Clear Mind. And the Essence Worm. I said it was mandatory, and that's why. We're running one aura, and because it's in an Essence Worm, no mana is reserved. Why is that important? Mind over matter. The second defensive mechanic of this build. The first is evasion. If we do get hit, through an 80% chance to evade and a 15% chance to dodge spell damage. 30% goes to mana before life. So if you get hit for 5,037 health, that's how much health I have. If I'm about to get one shot, it takes 30% of that number as a chunk of mana. So it's a pretty tanky build if you do get hit, which is unlikely. Very unlikely. I'll get to Flasks afterwards. While I'm talking about jewels, you want max life and resistances. Any damage you can get is a bonus. In order of importance, you should look for these rolls. Max life, resistances to cap, chaos damage, area damage, spell damage. For me, at the start of the league, spell damage was much cheaper. I found these jewels for only a couple chaos each. I was trying to pick up the best value for the best budget. I'll show you what I'm working with. You do not need to get these exact jewels. I would advise against it. As I stated, these are budget jewels. Evasion rating on a jewel isn't too bad. If you want some extra, that's fine. We have a lot of evasion, so scaling it is not a bad idea. It can get expensive though. So those are the jewels. I'll quickly cover the rares. I didn't talk about those yet. The belt, I picked this up for a couple chaos, guys. You can find a belt better than this one, okay? The reason I have this is because it's got massive health. It's got massive health. It's got extra strength, which is more health, and it gives me the ability to use high-level strength gems. I'm using a max level Warlord's Mark. All levels do on this thing is increase the duration. That's it. So if you don't want to level this up, if you do not want to get strength on your belt, if you don't have strength on your belt, you don't need a level 20 Warlord's Mark. So just lower the level on that, and you will need a lot less strength requirement. For the ring, I picked this up for 3 chaos the other day. For the longest time, I was using a ring that I found on my own. All you need here, is a very high health roll. Very high health roll. As you can see, this is tier 1 life, and it's the bottom of the barrel T1 life. It's 70. If you can, just search for a ring with 65 life maybe or higher, and just pick up the one that has the most resistances. If you can get strength, that's great. Evasion's a bonus too. I'd say these stats on a ring are probably going to be the best. You can also get chaos damage on a ring if you can afford it, but that's not so budget. Not so budget. Amulet. Some poor sap was fortunate enough to break this into something wonderful. For me, it's perfect. All attributes, again, is a little bit of extra... I just bit my tongue. A little bit of extra strength. Again, high life. Important, important, important. High life on every rare. Decent resistances. It's going to help you in the long run. I needed the 10 all res on this piece, so I picked it up. Maybe you don't. If you do not, then you can get more damage. You can get crit chance. You can get crit multi. I have spell damage. With the talismans available this league, you can get chaos damage. There's a whole lot you can do with an amulet, but in order of importance, life, and then damage, and then damage. If you can get evasion, perfect. But try to fill out your resistances, like I said. An amulet you can do a lot with. I am using crit multi here. It's going to be the best increase to our damage because we kind of lack it on the tree. We need to compensate for it here. So life, crit multi, resistances to cap. Everything else is a bonus. The shield, this is important as well. I bought this on like day 2 or 3. 3 chaos. It might be a little bit more now. These shields are in season. A lot of people are running this build. High life. This is a low life roll on my shield, but I am way too lazy to upgrade. This is 89 life. You can get over 100 life on a shield. So what you want here is high evasion. If you can afford it, high evasion. 1500 or higher, 1400 or higher. Tier 1 life if you can. I would be searching for 80 life or higher at the least. At the least. Get resistances here if you can too. Absolutely. This will help you cap. I think that's all of the actual gear. For Flasks, we're trying to buff our Queen of the Forests ability to increase our movement speed by 450 evasion rating, right? So you get 1% increased movement speed per 450 evasion rating. And here's what we do. A Jade Flask with increased duration and increased evasion rating. I'll show you really quickly how that affects our movement speed. I'm at 85% with Grace active. Okay? Boom. 171%. And look at the chance to evade attacks. It went up to 75. So it's multi-purpose. It's a defensive flask, and it helps you run to the boss in like 3 seconds. Easy stuff. Jade Flask right there. If you can afford quality, perfect. Somebody's probably selling this flask right now for a couple Chaos Orbs. You never know. Quicksilver. Again, it's important to have quality on these if you can. I understand it's not budget, but since we are scaling flask duration, quality goes a long way. On this flask, it's incredibly important to have immune to curses during flask effect and increased duration. You need that. Absolutely need that. However, you could use an adrenaline modifier on your Quicksilver. As long as you have the warding, the remove curse effect on one of these 3 flasks, you're okay. You can afford to get movement speed now. So I take my Stib Knight and I buff it up with perfect movement speed and increased effect. And I do it on the Stib Knight because it naturally has a longer duration. It's a 5-second base duration compared to a Quicksilver's and a Jade Flask at 4 seconds. So I don't find it necessary to increase the duration too much. Increasing the effect is very important here. Watch my movement speed. Look where my mouse is. 85, 182. And you get 69% chance to evade. and anything in the area of your smoke cloud is blinded. Good stuff there. Good stuff there. The reason this build is super budget right now is because I'm using an At-Series Promise as well. I don't have quality on this thing. I was just stressing the importance, but I'm out of whetstones, guys. I've been flasking up like crazy. This flask is monumental. We need this to leech. It gives us a huge damage boost. It keeps us alive. You'll see it. I have Vault Pact right now. If I'm low health, I pop this flask. I pop my hollowed flask. I'm at full health in no time. I can't live through a pure one-shot, but as long as the one hit doesn't kill me, as long as I'm not shocked, I'm going to live. I'm going to live. So this flask is mandatory. You're going to get a perfect roll that series promise for little to no investment whatsoever. Look at that. They're down to a Chaos Orb. Easy peasy. Try to get 25% physical damage. You don't need the elemental damage as much. And finally, I'm using a hollowed flask, a hollowed hybrid. I have it removing shock and increasing recovery speed. The increased recovery speed helps a lot with traps. When you're running through, sometimes you accidentally take a huge spike of damage if you get stuck with a trap or run over a couple too many spinning blades. This will help out with that. And like I said, we have mind over matter. So when we get hit, we take damage as mana as well. So when you use the hollowed flask, you're kind of double dipping effectiveness. You're regaining your health very rapidly, over 3.3 seconds, and you're regaining mana. And since we only have 2,125 mana, that 576 from the flask regen goes a long way. Goes a long way. And we're constantly leeching health and mana with Warlord's Mark. So we're replenishing our health pool constantly. Constantly. So I went over the gear, I went over the flasks, I touched base on the skill tree. I'll go over that at the very last. Gems and links. In the Divinaris, I've got Fortify, I've got Shield Charge, I've got faster attacks. The reason you want this is because it scales with movement speed. Look, this is Shield Charge. It's kind of slow. It's not bad, but look. When you pop your movement speed flasks, Shield Charge becomes a lot more effective. So there we have it. Some people find it a bit clunky to play with. I know I did, initially. But we need it. In the helmet, I've got an interesting setup here. I've got my phase run. The importance here is to have high quality. A high quality phase run and a high level phase run if you can. Quality adds movement speed on this gem. Okay? Important. This is one of the ways that you're going to make it to the boss in just a second. Immortal Call, cast when damage taken, increased duration setup, easy peasy. Pretty typical setup, but since we're using increased duration on the helmet, that's why I stuck a phase run in here. It's not going to be casted when you take damage, which is perfect. You're going to need this when you want it, not when you take damage. In the shield, this is something I just started messing around with lately. The smoke mine setup. This also increases movement speed. Here's what it looks like. If you cast that at the start of each zone, that's 15 seconds of increased movement speed. I'll show you. Look down here, 115%, okay? I'm at 85, 115. That's for free. Look how long it takes to cast. You get that whenever you want it. So at the start of every zone, that's what I do. That's what I do. So that's the shield. I'll get to the chest piece last. In the boots, I've got an interesting setup that some people disagree with. I've got a decoy totem, and I've got flame dash. And this is important for two reasons. Oh, I forgot. It's a calling strike as well. Okay, so it's a faster casting flame dash, which is important anyways. Sometimes you need to traverse gaps, and you can't do that with shield charge. So it serves that purpose. It serves the purpose of calling the boss in the last phase, which will save you time and struggle. Sometimes that fight can get hairy, especially on today's modifiers with tons of elemental damage. And the decoy totem. The decoy totem is important. Important. It helps you control the fight. If you know what you're doing in the lab, this is important. It's important. You probably saw me use it on a couple of the fights. The fight with the essences. If an essence touches the boss, he kind of consumes it and then does extra damage based on the one he picked up. So the strategy here is to drop a decoy totem away from the essence, lure the boss away from the essence so he's not doing extra damage during the fight, and since it's high level, it's got tons of health. It tanks many hits. Many, many hits. The less you get hit, the better off you are. That's how evasion works. And that's why this plays to our strength. In the gloves, here's an important setup. Orb of Storms, Power Charge on crit, Curse on hit, Warlord's Mark. Pretty simple setup. We're scaling crit with this build. Orb of Storms covers a pretty large area. I only really drop it on the bosses. Or if I feel like I'm going to die in the run at some point, if things are getting hairy, drop Orb of Storms, put up a Blade Vortex, pop your Red Series Flask, you're at full health. Okay? Easy peasy. The reason we use Warlord's Mark is because, again, it double dips effectiveness for us. We're using Mind over Matter. This gives us life and mana. And since we're using Vol Pact, it comes back insta. Very, very quick. It's incredibly useful, especially on a budget. I've farmed 150, 200 labs with this Warlord's Mark. Easy stuff. Good stuff. You can, if you get a little bit lucky, you can tank Argus without any flask usage and only Warlord's Mark. You just need to not get crit. I've done it before. It's easy. I already kind of touched base on Essence Worm. I'll say it again real quick. Grace. Grace is really good. Check this out. I'm at 85% movement speed, 62% chance to evade. Without Grace, it's so much lower. So this is by far the best single aura we should run with this build. 9% chance to evade from just hitting Grace. Tons of movement speed. And if you haven't guessed, movement speed is bread and butter for us. We need to run fast, fast, fast. Alright, so finally, the Queen of the Forest. The moment you've all been waiting for. Blade Vortex. Void Manipulation. I should say these in order of importance, shouldn't I? Okay, here it is. I'll lay it out for you. Okay? I'll lay it out for you. This is from left to right. This is order of importance. Blade Vortex. You don't need quality on this gem. What quality does here is increases area of effect. I haven't needed it this far, guys. If you want it, that's great. That's quality of life. When I made this character, it wasn't available to me, so I stuck with this. Added chaos damage. Huge, huge damage boost. Especially with the quality. Check that out. Supported skills deal 10% increased chaos damage. Big deal. Big deal. If you can afford quality on this gem, I'd say maybe pay a couple extra chaos. It's not going to hurt you if you don't have quality. Okay, you can do this without quality gems. I did. Think about how I afforded all this stuff, right? This is the character I made all the money on. I started somewhere. I came from the bottom. I know what it's like to play this character without great gear. Void manipulation, very big as well. It's a more chaos damage multiplier. It's very strong. Very strong. Spell Echo. This helps us keep our Blade Vortex at maximum stacks, which can be very tedious without Spell Echo. So it's a quality of life gem. You don't need this one. If you feel like you can micromanage your Blade Vortex stacks during a boss fight, maybe you don't need this. If you feel like you can stack up to 20 before he comes out, and that's all you need, you don't need this at all. You can put in, like added lightning or something like that. I don't know. I personally use this. It helps me. Conk effect, pretty much necessary here. You really want this one as a 5th link. The build, probably on a 4 link, it's not going to work very well. But on a 5 link, Conk effect carries damage. Quality here goes a long way. I'd say if you were going to look for quality on any gems, added chaos, void manipulation, Conk effect. You don't need level 20 gems. You don't need quality gems. However, for the sake of the guide, I'd like to tell you how important they are. So there's the gear, there's the gems, there's the flasks. I didn't go over the skill tree yet. I didn't go over the ascendancy points. And because I'd like to be thorough, I'll go over it now. Ascendancy points first. Nature's Adrenaline. I got this first thing. When I completed Normal Labyrinth, this is the first thing I picked up. A lot of people ask me that. When you're leveling, movement speed while using a flask is big. Big, big, big. Your Quicksilver will all of a sudden become crazy. Like, you'll start moving real fast. In Cruel Labyrinth, I picked up Nature's Boon. Again, while leveling, I prioritized the ability to move quickly and have flask charges up frequently. So I did this one. I did this. Reduced elemental damage taken. It's a bonus for leveling. However, it's important in Labyrinth. And this is a very good ascendancy for Lab as well. Half the time we're in here, we're literally spamming flasks. We're running through stages, and this right here supports that. Third, I picked up Master Surgeon. In Merciless Lab, I got Master Surgeon. Big quality of life right here. It was nerfed in the past, but don't let that stop you. Don't think, hey, this was nerfed, it's shit. It's not. They put it to a reasonable standard, and it's good. It works still. We get increased life from flasks. You remove bleeding on use, which is perfect for the traps in the labyrinth. You never die from bleeding, ever. You gain a flask when you deal a crit, which is perfect. At the start of your zones, you toss one Blade Vortex, and you just start running through. Every time you crit, you're going to get your flasks back. When I completed Uber Lab at level 75 by myself with this build, I picked up Master Herbalist. I did Uber Lab at 75 solo, easy peasy. Pretty sure I got multiple keys. That was a while ago, I forget. But this is big. This is what makes the build possible. Without poison damage, we probably wouldn't be able to function, to be completely honest. We're kind of relying on it for the boss kills. It synergizes with At Series Promise. That's why this flask is so big for the budget version of the build. Check this out. You always poison on hit while using a flask. If you're good about managing your flasks on a fight, this is going to take you a long way. Long way. So there's the Ascendancies and the order of importance, at least for me, when I was leveling up. I'll go over the skill tree a bit. And I'll go over the skill tree as if I was leveling up as well. So if you're using this as a leveling guide, here you go. You start off taking these evasion and life nodes. These are huge, like wildly impactful. So take that. Once you get to finesse, which isn't crazy beneficial, you come up, you take Heart of Oak. That'll help you out. If you feel like you need strength and intellect for leveling up, Primal Spirit, you could take that initially. Otherwise, I would start traveling. This build requires, now follow my cursor here, okay? I can't really direct your eyes any other way. So here's what I do. I don't take this jewel socket. I don't take jewel sockets at all until I have a great jewel to put in there. So I travel all the way up here, okay? Don't mind anything else you see. I take skill duration nodes insta. Insta. That's the first priority on this build, okay? So like I said, you start off health evasion, take Heart of Oak, and then you come down here, you travel. You travel all the way up to these skill duration nodes. That's going to help you stay at a higher stack of Blade Vortex more often. Okay, so that's going to impact how long Blade Vortex is active on your character. So what's nice is Sentinel right here. The next point you take after these skill duration nodes, Sentinel. That might help you out leveling. A little bit of an elemental resistance boost. That'll help you out. These right here, this jewel socket's pretty valuable. You might want to get this one while leveling if you feel like you need resistances. 18 lightning, 18 cold, that's a pretty big deal. If you don't feel like you need resistances, what you do is you path through the Scion Life Wheel, and again, up to these skill effect durations. Huge. This is going to be the biggest DPS increase you can get while leveling, because it allows you to stack Blade Vortex high, and Blade Vortex does more damage at a higher stack. Even if the tooltip is low, it doesn't matter. Once you're at 20 stacks, you're going to be hitting stuff really hard. So after the skill effect duration, I come up here. Okay, follow my mouse still. I come up here. This puts me in position to take Mind Over Matter, but I don't. You do not take this until later in the game, until you're doing Uber Lab, probably. So when I got here, I had to make a decision. Travel right and go into the witch nodes, or travel left. While leveling, I highly suggest you travel left into the Templar area. I keep following my cursor here. I got Retribution, and immediately after that, I went and got these area of effect nodes. Hugely important for Blade Vortex. It's going to help you level significantly. You also pick up these 3 life nodes while leveling. It's going to help you just naturally live. If you feel like you need mana regeneration and a little bit of life, this node is very valuable while leveling. I didn't pick it up until later on personally, but I had leveling uniques. So after you get this Templar area, and you get the AoE and the life here, what you do is you start coming up into the witch area. Occultist Dominion, perfect. This is what we need right here. This is going to help us while leveling. You travel into Spell Crit. This is going to synergize very well with Master Surgeon. Remember how I was talking about critting and getting flask charges? Well, check this out. We're getting some crit here. You're going to have more flask charges. You're going to do more damage. Good stuff. And what's cool is right now, after we take the crit, guess what? We're right next to some more AoE, which is huge quality of life for Blade Vortex. And now that we're in the Witch Cluster, there's a lot you can do. You can get Flask Effect and Flask Duration, which is pretty damn good while leveling. It buffs your Quicksilver, makes it last longer. Or if you feel like you're getting hit pretty hard, you pick up these life nodes. Cruel Preparation, 10 life, 10 max life, and all res. Check that out. Look at that point investment. Good stuff while leveling. These right here, you probably don't need these just yet. If you feel like you're really dying, you really need that extra life boost, you can take these. However, I didn't take these until late game. I didn't take these until I was ready to take Mind Over Matter at around like level 75-ish or so. So don't worry about the mana nodes. That comes for late game. That is late game. After you fill out the Witch Cluster I was talking about, you got the damage here, you got the AoE here, Flask Effect and Life. You're going to want to start getting ready for some damage and some big evasion. So you start pathing through here. You get reflexes. You can get hairier first if you'd like. That might help you a little bit while leveling up. Cast speed and movement speed. However, what I did was I traveled right. Once I got to this Dex node and pathed through here, these evasion nodes, I got to this Dex node, I went to the right. I took this Dex node right next to Volpack. Do not take Volpack just yet. You don't want that until you're in the 80s or so. Not very important until later on. What you can do is if you need more life, I did. I needed more life. I took this wheel. I took this wheel right here. Took that wheel right there. And somewhere around end game, I know this is going to seem like a quick transition, and I apologize, but somewhere around end game, level 80 or so, 75 to 80s, that's when you need to pick up Mind Over Matter. So what I did, when I was done leveling and I was ready to transition to maps, I took out all these points from Templar that I had, right? I know I directed you to level up in Templar, but you also get refund points while leveling, so don't worry about this. You take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points out of Templar. Okay? Here's what you do. You take Mind Over Matter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Look at that. All of a sudden, your effective health pool becomes much higher. Mind Over Matter effectively increases your health pool by how much mana you have. Okay? It's really hard to die if you have mana, is what I'm saying. Okay, so we take Mind Over Matter. Once we're ready to get into maps at around level 75 to 80, we drop the Templar nodes, and that's when we just transition into a lot more health and effective life pool. After that, after Mind Over Matter, you can get chaos damage. The last nodes that I took were these right here, chaos damage nodes. It's not wildly important. You don't need damage for lab. You need some, but you do not need all of it. Now, there's a couple points that I didn't cover here. It's really hard to go over all of it, but use your best judgment. Use your best judgment. Crit chance is good. You can get that if you feel like you need more damage. Just use your best judgment. If you feel like you need more damage, pick up some damage nodes first. If you feel like you're dying, maybe take Profane Chemistry. If you feel like you're dying, maybe take this a little sooner. It's easy peasy. That's the life tree. That's the skill tree. We have tons of life here. I'm sitting at 5k. I have 2100 mana. Mind Over Matter, Queen of the Forest, Pathfinder, Blade Vortex build on a budget. Now, that's the guide. That's what it is. I want to make this for a budget because it's important for me to stress the fact that this works well. You do not need a 6-link. You do not need a Vessel of Vinktar. You do not need Shadows and Dust. You don't need Helm Enchants. You don't need all these things that make this build the way it looks when I run it on my stream. Okay? Now, some people are wondering, okay, what if I have extra money? Alright, you rich fucks, here's what you do. Here's what you do. You take off your face breakers, you chuck on Shadows and Dust, you swap to Vulnerability, and in your 6-link, Control Destruction. Swap out at Series Promise for Vessel of Vinktar with, very important here, lightning damage to spells. Okay? Boom. All of a sudden, your build's not budget. You do almost twice the amount of damage as you would before. As long as you can shock stuff, you'll be doing almost twice as much as before. You'll be leeching life and mana like crazy. You'll kill everything typically before your Vinktars ends, but the thing is it doesn't matter in lab. You have to wait for the boss's animations before you can progress, okay? So, that's it. If you're rich, that's what you do. If you're poor, I covered you. Good stuff. I appreciate you watching. I hope you learned something. If you have questions, feel free to ask. I'll answer. I stream sometimes. My handle is Jelbishi, Jelbishi. I'll put it in the link. I know I talked on for a long time. Just the run itself took 7 minutes. I can only imagine how long I just started talking for the guide. Hopefully it helps. If you're watching till the end, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And goodbye.